The Parent Council of Washington Township has had a very rich, colorful, and rewarding history. This became apparent recently when we appointed a Blue Ribbon Committee to pause, reflect, review the history of the Parent Council, look at where we are today, but more importantly to project and give some leadership on where the Council should be in the future.
The parents of Washington Township have always played an important role in the education of their children. After Indiana's statehood in 1816, families donated land and neighbors came together to build schools. The first schools were in Allisonville. Now Johnson Woods, near the fairgrounds, it's currently IPS School 70, the Kerr family farm at Keystone and 86th Street, and on Michigan Road at Crooked Creek. By the late 1800s, the schools were under the control and management of the elected Washington Township trustee. In 1894, the Nora community, named for founder Peter Lawson's wife, petitioned the trustee to build a school at 86th and Westfield Boulevard. By the end of 1800, there were 15 one-room frame schoolhouses in Washington Township. Students going beyond the 8th grade attended Broad Ripple High School, described at the 1893-94 Chicago World's Fair as exceptional. From 1902 to 1923, these one-room schools were consolidated into 3 multi-room brick buildings: Crooked Creek School, Nora School, and Broad Ripple School. In 1916, Fanny Baker, principal and teacher at Crooked Creek, organized the first Washington Township parent-teacher organization, which provided hot meals at lunch using homegrown produce. Indianapolis annexed Broad Ripple in 1922 and 1923. This created the designation of inside and outside Washington Township, which is still used today. The annexation forced the Washington Township trustee to pay tuition for students going to high school at Broad Ripple, Carmel, or Shortridge. In 1923, John Strange School was built and immediately became the largest Washington Township school with 200 students. This resulted in 3 large elementary schools: Nora, Crooked Creek, and John Strange. The tremendous population growth in Washington Township over the next 30 years caused repeated addition to schools and shifting of students from one school to others, a pattern which would be repeated numerous times in the future. The school population doubled from 1940 to 1950 and caused overcrowded schools, forcing the trustee to announce that students would only attend half-days. Enraged parents convinced the trustee to rent space at the fairgrounds.
This informal parent group was quite a powerhouse because they were willing to spend money, they were willing to spend the time to find out what the proper educational facilities would be needed in the Washington Township district or area. And they invested in having a group come up from Indiana University, survey the territory, lay out the plans, and then the parents, they went door to door asking parents how many children they had, how old the children were, and what children they had that were not in school. So they actually laid a plan for the next 20 years as to how many students would be in the system.
When the trustee refused to raise taxes for schools, the parents chose and elected a candidate for trustee who supported them.
The real reason for our meetings was that we wanted to be able to run our schools, and we were not getting any cooperation. And so one of our meetings, we decided, well, let's go at this and see what we can do and how do we do it to establish a school board.
January 1953, the 4 school PTOs elected 2 reps, each for the School Planning Committee of Washington Township, forerunner of today's Parent Council. After electing officers, their first task was to obtain a high school. May 1953. Planning Council expanded by adding 10 more representatives plus the PTO president from each school, and made 2 original representatives the Executive Committee. Committees were formed to study and recommend the size, number of high schools, a site, an architect, the curriculum, and the methods of financing a high school. The study committees made recommendations to the trustee. January 1954, the Planning Committee and PTOs went door to door, selling $10 bonds to raise $200,000 to finance building the high school. Within 3 weeks, they had oversubscribed, raising $235,000. August 1953, the School Building Corporation was formed. Officers elected, Kenneth Foster, chairman. February 1954, the Planning Committee voted for the school board system of governance over schools to be implemented by August 1955. When the current trustee would not agree with this change, the parents helped elect in November 1954 a trustee and 3 advisory committee members who would support this change. Fall 1954, students from the Fairgrounds School moved to 2 new schools, Fall Creek and Delaware Trails. Due to the efforts of the Legislative Committee, the 1955 Indiana Legislature passed a bill allowing the formation of a Washington Township school board. The bill required that 55% of the voters sign petitions supporting a school board.
We really did survey the area, and we found this area at 86th Street and Westfield. But it was L-shaped. We just thought that there wasn't another location better for the school than the L. So we bought the L.
In February of 1955, contracts for building North Central were awarded. Groundbreaking was May 16, 1955 for the high school. August 1, 1955, Washington Township School District was established, and the trustee and his advisory committee, plus a 5th appointed person, the president of the Planning Committee, became the appointed school board and served until May 1956.
We hired a superintendent, J. Everett Light, who came on board in August of 1955 and became the manager of the system. And we were in the process of buying land to build a high school and 2 junior highs.
Dr. Light hired 115 teachers and staff. He also requested the continued assistance of the School Planning Committee to study important issues: bus transportation, school expansion needs, kindergarten program, and adult education programs.
That's, I believe, is what made Washington Township unique, was that Dr. Light said, we will have parental involvement at every step of the way.
The Planning Committee's original 2 representatives from the 6 schools, forming the Executive Committee, now became the School Board Candidate Screening Committee of 12. They recruited and presented potential candidates for slating for school board election of May 1956. Fall 1956. North Central at the Northview site opened its doors, although much of it was still under construction. Another situation repeated over the years to come. Although 950 students were expected, the enrollment was 1,083. Both Eastwood and West Lane Junior High schools also opened in the fall of 1956. Another grade school, White River, also opened in the fall of 1956. Due to the continual population growth in Washington Township, new schools or additions were added almost yearly. When it was realized in 1960 that the high school needed expansion and a 3rd junior high was needed, a planning committee study proposed that North Central be built at a new site and the old building become the needed junior high school, currently Northview. The first graduation class in the new building was 1964, and the student population had more than doubled since 1956. North Central was considered state-of-the-art, and students who had graduated made comparisons to their colleges.
He was a freshman at Purdue, and he came home for open house. And when he got into the labs, his first comment, "Oh, this is so outdoes Purdue." He said, "Oh, to be back here and be able to use the lab here compared to the labs he was using at Purdue."
As new schools were added to the district, new parent representatives were added to the planning committee. The population increased in the 1970s and then decreased in the 1980s. The Planning Committee affected the township by the results of many study committee reports to the superintendent and the school board, as well as slating candidates for the school board and serving on selection committees for superintendents and principals. The Parents Planning Committee has also changed names, but their functions have only changed slightly.
The Executive Committee of the Parent Council embraced not only a mission statement and core beliefs, but also a vision statement for the Parent Council: superior schools in a supportive community. The Parent Council of the Metropolitan School District of Washington Township is to represent and give community-wide voice to the educational interest of families and to strive to improve the quality of public education in the township. What do we really believe in as an organization? The Parent Council core beliefs. And we boiled that down to 5 basic beliefs. We believe, number 1, our highest priorities are children and their education. The second core belief: we believe in the value of public education. More specifically, our focus is on public education and the public schools. The third core belief: we believe parents have a right to meaningful participation in the process of public education. The fourth core belief: we believe parent leadership, talent, and influence are vital parts of superior education. The fifth core belief: we believe the community of Washington Township values and supports education and meaningful parent participation in that process. The job description. And really there are 3 basic components of the work of a member of the Parent Council. Number 1, they're expected to attend the 8 scheduled monthly Parent Council meetings during the school year. The 2-hour meetings are very educational in scope. We include speakers and informative programs concerning public education issues pertinent to our township. We also include representatives from the school board, and the superintendent makes frequent addresses to the Parent Council on issues critical to those 2 bodies. Number 2, they are expected to serve on committees doing special work on issues of importance during the school year. And number 3, during even years, they are included in the screening process for school board members. Service on the Parent Council is an opportunity. It's an opportunity to guarantee that not only our children, but future generations of children will receive the very best in the way of public education within our township.
In the early years, the parents were really the backbone of each of the schools. School was open with classrooms, toilets, and that was about it. Everything beyond that was really created by parents.
And we moved to Washington Township for the school, and we'd been following the school in the newspapers and thought this was where we wanted to settle.
In Washington Township, parents have the right to give their opinion, and it's very highly respected.
I really feel, though, that this idea that really was born of J. Everett Light, of including parents, has been the strength of the district all the way along. And I just think it's a bit ironic now when we talk about what's needed in education, and the resounding rallying call is more parental involvement, that this is what we've been doing all along.